Oh, friggin' air conditioner is so loud. So loud. Hey everybody. It's me. I'm Eric. Making games. This is a live coding session for my game called The God Killer. It's a puzzle game, top down, written in Unity. It's got C# code in it. I say it's got C# code in it. It is constituted mainly of C# and then also a lot of like models and assets and stuff that are part of Unity. Yeah, so I'm just going to go over a few things, and I'm going to do a quick demo of where I'm at now. I think I'm going to start doing demos at the beginning, so that if people are not that interested in the live coding aspect of it, and I don't blame you if you're not into writing code, it might not be your thing. You can still check my progress, probably on the replays, but live, whatever, by just watching the first part of the video. So you can get a quick idea of where the game is, if you want to follow along that way. So I'll do that. The schedule is pretty consistent, except for this week. So Monday through Thursday around 6 p.m. Sometimes I get in early, like today. Like right now it's 5:12 p.m. I do my live coding session. I go till about 8, more or less. Okay. Sunday, 3 p.m. PST strict on the dot, starting at 3 p.m. every time. It's more of a little bit of a show. I'm not so much hanging out. I've got usually something planned that I want to demo. Sometimes I set up some kind of event where there's a little more participation involved. Like we had one where there was a sing-along, where I set up the rules for people to record some audio that would go into a song, and we'd put that together. So that's what Sunday is like. It won't be a coding thing, it'll be something else. I might do game design, level design, where I just crank out some levels. We might group solve a level together, something like that. And I am open also to ideas if there's any activities people would like to try out in those sessions there. But yeah, so let's do a little demo of this game and the current status. So there's these little purple things. I'm using a hell of a lot of stub artwork, and there's a strength in using something that's intentionally ugly when you are making demos in early days. It can't be confused with what the final thing will be. That's a theory anyways. The other theory is that you might look at it and it's so friggin' ugly, and there's so many other indie game developers out there that make ugly graphics and release it, and like you might think like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. His game looks terrible. It's gonna look like crap. Would you stop worrying about that? Please don't worry about that. We're gonna get nice art in here. I know how to either make reasonable art myself, I am somewhat of an artist, or to hire people that can do it. And I do have a little bit of money in the war chest for precisely that purpose. So don't you worry that there's little pink, flat shaded guys walking around here. Let me explain what they are, because the thing is, this is the bones of the game. This is a very unique game. And I'm proud of these particular characters and what they do. Not terribly proud, but I think they got promise. So they walk in trenches. They always walk in trenches. They don't want to come out of the trenches. So I call them trench walkers. They just scuttle around inside of these trenches. There's another aspect of them that I'm going to get to in this session. Okay, they go up stairs and they come back downstairs. I refine the rules so that they're just proper agoraphobes, and they will stick to the trenches. That's their main thing. They'll still chase after me, but they'll be in these trenches. The trenches will be part of the level design. Now the other part that I'm going to add to them is a big stupid head It sticks up on top of them. It pokes out of the top of these trenches and breathes fire constantly. Like there's going to be a beam of fire that comes out the top of their head, and it always points in one direction. It's not a very smart behavior for that beam of fire to always point in one direction, but it is a good behavior from the standpoint of creating puzzles, designing puzzles. So I'll be able to have, say, this guy that's north of me, he can have a beam that always faces south, that comes south, and it destroys everything. It destroys everything. So say I'm over here, and this trench walker, I'll point him out with my mouse to be very clear. This trench walker is going to close the distance. Each time I move up, he comes over one. That's another weird thing about this game for some people. Time stops until you issue a command. It's what I call a stepping game. So I go up, he moves. Go up, he moves simultaneously. So imagine there's also like a beam of fire projecting south, and it's closing in on me. I really need to get away from that beam before he closes the distance and he's on the same column as me. That will destroy me if his to be added beam ends up in the same column as me facing south. But if I jump ahead, oh, I end up killing myself. And I didn't put a respawn point there. You know what? I'm requiring too much of people's imagination right now. What I want to do instead is start coding this thing. This is the beam. Yesterday in the session, I set up some stuff where I can make the beam any length. Now it's 10 squares long, and then I can have it face in any direction. I can have it face north. Now it's going out 10 squares north. I can have it face west. I can have it face east. Well, that's where it was when it started. Okay, you get the idea. So I did some basic coding to make it so that I have control of this beam object, and it'll face in different directions. Again, total stub artwork. I'm gonna get to the cosmetics of everything later. Right now I'm zeroed in on getting the game to what I call logic complete state, which means all of the game logic functions in such a way that all the elements of the game can be playable, and I can begin creating levels that don't have to be changed later on as the game elements change, because those changes made after the logic complete state will be purely cosmetic. So that's just some basic project management, and there's also like a psychological aspect of it that appeals to me, which is when I have the logic part of it done, it's done. Yeah, maybe I'll come back and tweak it a little bit, but I can say that part's done. Alright, onward. So, we go in here, and we start making some edits. And I had thought a fair amount of this in my morning coffee session, that the trench walker will need some more pieces added to him. Okay, so I have my trench walker piece here. He's going to need a separate piece for his head. Copy this. Copy. And, well, can I not just repaste it again? That's weird. Oh, I gotta go to up here. Okay, paste. Okay. And this file name is getting super long, so I'm gonna call him a trencher for now. Just because it's such a friggin' long name, and I don't like abbreviating, but that should be fine. Okay. Do the same for this guy. Consistency. And if my intro sounded like this was going to be a very action-oriented session, sorry, that's just not the nature of coding. Got to be honest with you. It's a contemplative activity. You got to think about things. You can't take a hammer to the code. You can't just like kick the code into place with your feet. There's no physical violence involved in writing code. If there were, I think even more people would do it. But no, just many hours thinking about things, kind of fiddling about things to get them right. That's why I've always hated the term hacker. That's like the antithesis of what proper programming is hacking. If you want to say you break into systems, there might be some hacking there. There might be like something resembling a physical attack. But nah, coding's not like that. Okay. So this is not a piece that gets born. This is kind of like a child piece. It's not a reactant piece. So I'm going to use the other piece to control everything, and this is just a little bit that gets added on. Shouldn't be too much here. It is in the M layer. The stuff about where it gets born I can take out. And this. I'm not going to have any extra properties, so I can let the base implementation of this method be used. Okay, this reacting part, there'd be no reaction. So this is actually a very, very simple, straightforward thing. Let's see, do I need to override the other thing? No, I don't have to. Okay. Trencher. Okay. And I made all the edits to the wrong file, so I'll just go back and swap them. Alright. So I fix this guy up a little bit. Consistent with my renaming. Maybe I'll just call them trenchers. Trenchers instead of trench walkers. Trench walkers does sound a little bit like Game of Thrones thing. Alright, so that's all good. But we'll need to override add to board, which is the thing which binds this to the board, which is kind of like a game state thing. Okay, so I'll call the base add to board. This is also where I want to create something for the head. Okay. So I can create just a new head piece here. Okay. Trencher, head piece. New trencher head piece. I just have to do this call. The head's going to be created right above the main body piece. Height. Man, do I want to stick a big stupid head on top of it? Yeah, let's do that now. Okay. So Gonna make this guy somehow even uglier. Somehow, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make my little man, who was already ugly stub art, I'm gonna make that guy even uglier. This is something I know how to do. So I go into my Unity prefabs and I pick out the trench walker. Yeah, I can rename it. Trencher. Open them up. Now I'm editing the shared instance of this prefab. It's got the mesh that makes them up. I'm gonna fix this renaming thing here. I'll leave the tag as it is because it's kind of a pain to change tags. Nah, I changed my mind. Let's do it right. Let's do it right. Trencher. Subtract that tag. Oh, I can't do that because it's already being used. Change that to trencher. Okay, good. Okay, now let's do something ugly. Let's get a new big stupid head on top of this guy, because I just want to show that he occupies not just one square space but two, like the thing above him too. So a sphere, a low poly sphere, is an icosahedron. Radius 1, I think 0.5. I'm just wondering where it is in the preview. Maybe when I'm editing a prefab it won't show it. So let's see, 14. Okay, I suspect there's something iffy about adding the shape here. Nope, I got it. I thought I did. Yeah, alright. That's fine. Oh, there's another way to do this. So I can take an existing fellow here and okay, there's my icosahedron. There it is. Okay, so now I know there's things wrong with that icosahedron. I might as well just create a new one. I know that I kind of have to see it out in this non-prefab space, so I can do that. That's no problem. So let's do icosahedron again, and my radius this time I'll make it 0.5. I'll make it a little bit smaller. Doesn't have to entirely take up the square. The subdivisions, come out where I can see you. Yeah, just make it just a little bit smoother. Okay, 2, that's good. Okay, so here's a big ugly head. Take it like that, build it, give it the same ugly material as this guy has. No. Let's say none. Yeah, that'll do it. Alright. Then I'll move big stupid head on top of the body. Okay. Let's get it sort of half-assedly lined up. It's not terribly important to get it right. I just want it to depict reasonably what space this guy occupies. This is his stupid head that's going to stick up over the top of the trench and breathe fire. Breathe fire. Breathe fire. And it would look a little bit better if it was just right on the edge there. Cool. So that should do it, but I have to join that up with the prefab, and that'll be the next little challenge. There's a good chance I kind of screw up the underlying prefab when I do it. Let's see, which one is that? Okay. So first I'm going to unpack the prefab completely. I can get away with not doing that. Let me just try it without doing that. Put this in the offset. Okay, and then just see if I can just update like that. That kind of worked. So all of the existing little dudes got the ugly heads. Now they got little heads popping up over the top of the trenches. And I could start playing right now. I can hit the play button and they'll all move around and delightfully with their heads above the trench. But I'm not here to be self-indulgent. I'm here to code. I'm here to make progress. So what's next? I need to have the game state representation of this fellow's head right here. So to do that, I go back into the trencher piece, add the board, and I think I've got this pretty much right. Okay. So if I do that, and I say piece util, add piece to board, head piece, ref board. I think that'll add the piece to the board, and importantly, it will cause interactions with the other elements. Otherwise, it's just a kind of a disconnected bit of geometry that I've created with the head. So I don't use things like colliders and collisions in my game world. Everything that happens as far as what happens in response to you doing movements as the player is updated in the game logic first, and then the view is kind of updated to reflect that, but the real game happens inside of that logical representation. So there's a bunch of squares that contain data about what's inside of them, and this stuff is just prettiness that's depicted for the viewer to see things. So there's no like collision checking between this guy's head here and something else, for example. And speaking of that, I need to have this set to ignore raycast, and I need to update the prefab accordingly. That'll do it. Okay, so back to the code. The other thing I really want inside of there, this beam. This beam is a big deal. Oh, don't do that. Don't pull it that way. I want to have that snap. I spent some time getting that so it would snap. Okay. The beam is definitely part of this guy too. Let's start it out in the right default way. Put it like that. I don't mind for the moment having it just kind of stick through the guy's head. I can definitely tweak it later so it doesn't do that. Maybe I'll have the default direction it begins be east, since this guy underneath seems to be facing that way. What if I set the length to 0? What does that do? 2. Okay, that's cool. Okay, there might be some more logic I need there. So if I have this beam object here, and I have it set to 1, do I really want it to be centered on the square like that, or do I want it to come out 1? I think I want it to come out 1. So I might as well get that fixed. I've got another class for that. Sort of incorrectly named at the moment, but never mind that. So I want the new position be a little bit different. We'll say float. All I gotta do is just add 1 to it. 1f plus, I think it's just, I just add 1 and I think it's gonna come out like I want it to. This is the logic for how the beam is displayed. So I saved that. I might need to build it. Oh, that's fair. That's fair. And then also trencher piece. Trencher. Yeah. Trench walker sounds too much like night walker. Okay, that's good. So I've got the beam. It's coming out here a little bit. I like that. I'm not going to worry about adjusting it like exactly to match up with the head, because that would be something that would make more sense to do after I've got a more refined model. But let's check the other directions. North, west, south. Let's check the length if I go 0, 0. South, east, north, west. Good. All as it should be. Let's have it default east. Okay. Now I gotta add the beam to the prefab. Easily done. Easily done. But I don't want it to go under the offset, because the offset will rotate around. Oh, you're not going to let me just do a tiny bit of... Okay. Okay. So let's unpack the prefab completely. Put the beam inside of the trench walker. Like that. And then okay, let's override the trencher. And let's hope I didn't screw anything up. Okay. So I got a little beam plate thing coming out in front of these other guys. That's promising. This script that I've got attached to the beam is kind of not in the right place. Not in the right place, but it's okay. It's sort of like I've got this added in now. It's just like a quick way to test the rendering of the beam in different positions. I think I'll leave it there for now, even though I know I'm going to have to do something else with it. Okay, so the other logical piece that the trencher would control would be okay. I should still finish up the head. The trencher, when the trencher walks, needs to update that position of that head as well. So before he only had the burden of navigating himself around, but now he's going to have to move his head as well as his body. So I'm going to take this and make it overridable for the first time. Make it virtual. It means that there's another class that inherits from this class, and I can override it and change it a little bit. So actually I don't need to copy that, because now that I've saved that there, I should be able to go back to here and say override, and just get the walk definition this way. And it calls the base walk, which is what I want. I know that the base walk, if it's successful in walking, will return true, and that means that the head piece should move as well. I think I will store the head piece before I perform the walk. I can do that by just looking at my game logic to get the piece that's currently above the body piece. Get in this call, this row, this. Come on. Height. +1, right above me. What? Oh yeah, I gotta cast it, because it was just returning a piece, but I gotta cast it to the more specific headpiece. Okay, forward, get in. Okay, cool. I should get that. So then I say, trencher headpiece, it's your turn to move. So I'm not going to do a walk. I'm going to do a move to, or I should say, let's say board move M, trencher headpiece, get CRH. Do I have an override where I can just say columns? Yes, I do. Good. So, you know, I don't even have to get the headpiece up here. I can just say whatever is in the old. Got it. Okay. So I'll just save the old. Let's do it this way. CRH. Old CRH. CRH is a coordinate system. So column row height equals this. Get CRH. Don't need this. Let's say just move whatever is in the old place where the head was to the new place where the head should be. Okay, there's one part that's missing to this still, but that's off to a good start. Let me rewrite this just slightly different. Say return false if I can't walk to that location, and then if it didn't fall through that way, or if it falls through, then I can return true. Okay, I also need to check that there's no obstacle in the way of the head. So if you can picture let's go ahead and make that case so that I can test it out a little bit later. Take a floor, have that floor block the top part where the head would go through. So you can see, like, underneath this block, the body is clear to move through that space, but the head would kind of get clotheslined. So I need to write a little bit of code that will check that the head is able to move through the space as well as the body. So that's the next thing. And if I go into piece, I can take a look at my existing function. So there's a can move to. Just want to see if there's something that just already encapsulates what the criteria that I need. Can walk to might be good. It's got some extra stuff in it, though. I'm not sure if that's really correct. Yeah, so, yeah, I forgot. There's also a little more complexity to this. So let me think. So the complexity is these steps, basically. So if I just make another version of these steps, I can create that same case. Okay. I'll take this guy. I'll move over there to set up that same kind of clothesline situation, but this time it's going to be with steps. So I need to be able to say that one's okay, because this would just show up as an obstacle that would be untraversable. What if I'm here? So he goes here. No, that one's okay too. That one's okay too. So maybe there is no special casing needed for the going up and down the steps. Let me see what down looks like. So down would be this one. So up would have me covered, because steps, even though they look like steps, even though they look like they're only occupying a portion of the space under the hood, logically it's treated like a block that's one high. So putting in an extra block on top of it, the game, as far as obstacle checking goes, considers this just to be a whole wall, and it wouldn't let the character move through it. On this side, though, that logic is a little bit different, and the trencher, as I'm now calling him, his body would see an empty space here, and I need to evaluate that stepping down square for this little thing there. So to do that, it's not too hard. It's not too hard. I just need to get what I call the landing height. So land height is going to be, let's see, land height will be board heights it land floor at call plus decall row plus drow height. Okay. So that will give me the new height that the character would be at stepping in the direction that we want to try stepping in. Okay, so I want to know if this guy's head's going to bonk against something. So CRH let's go back over here. Got can walk to, can move to. Let's see what's inside of can move to, because I don't want to miss some kind of complicated logic. Like if I implement a simpler version of this logic, it'll just cause me to miss something in the implementation. So I'm saying, can that person move from C to R to H, DC, D, or DH? I think this is probably the function that I need to be calling. So it's got all the stuff to check for all the special cases I care about. So I can make this protected. It was private before. I make it protected. That means that my derived class can call it. And I have a feeling this is the function. I have a strong feeling it's the function that I want. And since it's going to be protected, I'll take off that underscore. Can move to, and I'll just change all those. Okay, so that does that. Okay, then back to this guy. So the new CRH is going to be new head CRH equals new CRH. Land height plus 1. So wherever the body would land, but up 1 higher. Okay. And I say, if not, if my head can't move there, Let's do it this way. Wait. Go back here. figure out I gotta specify a delta. Okay, there's no wall check stuff in here, so that should be fine. Okay, that's fine. I just gotta specify a delta instead of a. So it's going to be decall, d-row, and then land height minus height will give me the height delta. Then I want to pass the board. Okay, so if my head can't move, we're done. We're not going anywhere. If the head can't move, I'm not moving the body either. I'll stop everything right there. Okay, and I could consolidate this a little bit, make it just a little bit more tidy. Okay, so that should be fine. There might end up being like a special case to mess around with related to the beam, because I want the head to be able to move into a square that's occupied by the beam. Anyways, I'll get to that later. So then should be clear to move the head now, and this will be like so. What if that just works the first time I try it? That would be pretty cool. Usually things this complicated don't work the first time I try it, because it was slightly complicated, I gotta admit. Let me fix a mistake I almost always make before I make it. Go back into the trencher. Ugly little guy. Yep, I was about to make it again. So this needs to be ignore raycast. Beam I think is already, yeah, beam's fine. Okay, the body is all ignore raycast. It should all be ignore raycast. Ignore raycast. I'll just do it this way, make sure I get everything. Yep, change the children. That'll make it so that my board loading code that sweeps through the whole level with a raycast to check the positions of ceilings and floors ignores this guy. That's what I want. Cool. Now I'm just like scared to hit play. I'm just scared to, because I know it's probably not going to work the first time. I feel like I forgot something, but I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do it. You gotta get past that fear. You gotta hit play. You gotta see everything fail if you're gonna fail. Play. At least you can just play for me. Slow, slow, slow. Alright. So they're not moving. That means they think they're blocked. What happens if I try to move here? Okay, kill that guy. I haven't really decided what I want that behavior to be. I was thinking think I might want to just make that head be unpushable, because otherwise there's a lot of questions I have to answer. So I have a concept that some things can be pushable. I think I want the body to be pushable. Can't even push the body? It's not right. Did add to board fail? Alright, so I should get a little more knowledge about what's going on. Piece fell effect. Well, it's trying to make some pieces fall. An assertion failed. Line 100 of piece. Okay, let's check out that. Okay. And that was from one of the pieces walking. That might have been just me. Yeah, I did too much moving around there to actually know what event those assertions go to. So I think the next thing is, let's simplify this. I say simplify, meaning I will take out all but one of the trenchers, so that when I step through in the debugger, I'll know which instance of it the code is executing for. Just let me delete you. And I won't get confused. I don't want to be confused. Alright. So that's my trencher. When I start out, I expect him to try to move towards me, which is south, I believe. So I've got a breakpoint set. I've got, pretty soon I'll have my debugger going. It's going. Hit play. And I will take one step. And then this guy here, he'll react to my step and he'll execute his own walk. And I should see a breakpoint. I do. Okay. So 1914-1. I'll adjust the height so it's pointing to where his actual head is. I'll get the landing height at the new square. It should still be 1. Land height should be 1. Is it 1? Yes, it is. I'll check that the head is going to be able to move to the new location. Now what do I expect DH to be? I expect it to be 0. It is. Okay, cool. There we go. Down to down. Alright. From C. All this, I trust that. That's probably all good. And do I think can move to will return true? I do. I think it'll return true. Any reason why it wouldn't? Is it out of bounds? It's not out of bounds. Okay. From O piece. Expect this to be the head. No, I expect that to be null. I expect it to be null. Yes, okay. 2 O piece should be null. All empty. So there's two layers here. There's the O layer, which is the obstacle layer, and then there's the M layer, which is movable things. M piece in the location I'm going to, expect it to be null. Yep. So all of those checks should return null. Okay. But it didn't. Something... Oh, okay, okay. No, it just said everything's null. It said we can return true in that case. All the other logic underneath, it only applies if there's something there. All good. Do I expect that the base or the body will be able to walk in the direction that I asked it to? Expect it will be able to. There's nothing that should prevent it from doing that. Okay, that's true. So here's where it might fail. I don't think so. I don't think so. Let's go in anyways. Just make sure. Okay, so this piece should be non-null. It's the head piece. Good. I'm setting the old location null. I'm setting the new location 19 something 2 to be the head piece. Cool. That's good. So that's moving. And then that should have been a successful walk. Almost makes me wonder if I hit play last time on an old version of the code, because this looks like it's going to work. This totally looks like it'll work. What to think of that? So it looks like it updated the board, like the underlying game logic state, but didn't move the transforms, the Unity game object, the view stuff along with it. Okay. Okay. That's moved again, so in theory it also moved, but didn't set the transforms. So it's now in a state that's kind of messed up, so I want to start over again to start from a good state. And this time I'll set the breakpoint here. Actually, let's go into the base walk. Yeah, because I want to make sure it's returning the effect. Effects are things that the game logic passes back to the view to update the Unity scene. So I want to make sure it's passing that back. So let's hit play again. Okay. It seemed to have skipped over the walk, maybe? I don't know. That's okay, I can check effects. So there's probably going to be one in there for the player moving. Yeah, so I've got an effect in there for moving the player. Well, I don't have an effect for moving the trencher. So something's up there. So that's really weird. That's really odd. Makes me think it might just be a kind of an IDE thing. So instead of thinking too hard about that, let's just make sure I've got a breakpoint inside of walk, and I'll have to step into it a couple times, once for the player, which I can ignore, and once for the trencher. So start over again. Okay, then I move. Okay, so this first one should be for the player, which I think I can ignore. Let me, this is the player piece, fine. Hit play. Well, what about that? So that's really strange. So it's not even calling walk. And it makes me wonder, why would it not call walk? Okay, fine. Weird things call for weird code. Let's just break this out in an even simpler way until I see what's wrong. Stop the debugger. Alright, so first I'll just say if I can't move, then I'll return false. If I can't move the head, I'll return false. You know, I can already see the issue here. I can already see it. It's just a stupid logical thing. Okay. Getting caught up in double negatives, I think. So if I can't move, or I can't walk, return false. So the first one returned false, and then I was anding it with this beneath. It just, I forget the term for it, but it knew it didn't need to evaluate this for the overall expression to be true, so it didn't call that. So very basic logical thing. Okay, no problem. Back in the high life. Get rid of that. That. Build all. I think while I'm at it, let me make the trench head piece unpushable. Public bool. Public override. Bool is pushable. Return false. I'm saying you can push the trencher with its body, but you can't push it from its head. Okay. Started going. Odd. Okay. Lengthy delay. It seems like my stream is not quite working. Perhaps. OBS shows all green. So I think OBS is fine. Just apparently the player. That's fine. Whatever. I'm only slightly here to stream. I'm really more here to code. So let's get this going. Oh yeah. Well, at least the body's moving again. The body is not attached to the head. That's a visual thing. So I want to see if the logical parts work before I go debugging the visuals. Will the body stop here? Oh, no. The logic for checking an obstacle for the head is not working either. Okay. Well, a couple of things wrong then. I think I know why the head didn't move though. It's another mistake that I often make. Are you static, head? You're static. You are static. That's the problem. What's the problem with that? So just go recursive. Yeah, change the children. Yes, change the children. So everything should be not static now. Beam, and then head, trencher head, no longer static. Static just means that it's not expected to move in the scene, so it'll keep it positioned in the same spot, which is not the effect I want. So that there should work. Yeah, I'll go ahead and just move it around a little bit. That's cool. I like that I'm seeing that as the body turns, the lower body, even though it's small and stub art, you can see that little axe there. That's indicating to me the direction the body's turned, and that is correctly turning. But the beam, which I want to be independent of the body rotation, is remaining facing east as the trencher moves around, and that is a correct implementation, because in the game I want that beam to point in one set direction. So that's pretty cool for me. But the obstacle check right here is not working. So the head, I don't want it to just plow through the clothesline there. I want it to prevent movement. So I'm going to set up the trencher so that the trencher is directly in position, so that the next step he would take his stupid head smacking into that obstacle. And then I want to set a breakpoint to check that head obstacle checking code. Trencher piece. So this, can I move their code? Should be doing its job, and it's not. I want to know why. Start debugging. Okay. Make one step to get to the breakpoint. Oh, forgot those are still there. Okay. Here it is. Here's the code. It's going to ask head, heed. Can you move to the new location? Decall should be 0. Let's see, head is at 2, right? Yep, okay. D-row 1. 1 means move south. DH should be 0. Yep. So, oh, I know why. Okay, because can move to is only going to check for certain kinds of obstacles. It's not going to check for changes in the height. Okay, I don't have to step further because I know the cause. Okay, so most things are checkable by looking inside of the board. The board squares are in different layers, but anything that's just a height, like a difference in height, and that constitutes an obstacle, that has to be checked a different way, which I'll proceed to code into place now. Okay, so we'll say int head wall height equals board heights get wall height at call plus d call row plus d row height plus 1. No, land height plus 1. Okay. And since I'm making this calc 2 times, I'll go ahead and set it to a variable. Oh, thy duck. Yes, thank you. I got like 25 or something. I appreciate that. That is a compliment. But also, I'm an old fuck too, so you could tell that way as well. Unless I just barely started. Plus equal decall. Okay, let's get this guy going. I think that'll do it. Okay, so no, sir, I am 48 years old, I think. I think it keeps changing, though. That's the problem, though. I lose track how old I am. What did I just have there? Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we can say if head wall height is not equal to 0, that means there's something blocking his big dumb head. He can't move there. Oops. Or don't make that mistake again. Or. Okay. Thy duck, do you write code? GMS2. I don't know what is GMS2. Oh, Game Maker Studio. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh yeah. So now his big stupid head is getting stuck, which I love. But did I let him go that way? Yes. Well, yeah. We all need to be doing something, and we all struggling to find time and or motivation. It makes me happy to see his stupid head get stuck on stuff. Godot, well, that's like the open source version of Unity, or at least like it's an open source game engine, right? If I remember correctly. Okay. Okay, will he get stuck here? Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I was watching like a video about it, and it looked pretty sweet. I do like that it's open source. I have no complaints with Unity at all, especially with it being like free to develop in. But a nice open source alternative, if nothing else, that's good competition. And actually, it's not even fair to say if nothing else. It seems like Godot on its own is pretty worthwhile. Yeah. Alright. So that's pretty cool. I got the head going. And it makes me feel confident about the next part, which is that beam. The beam. The death beam. So right now, as I was saying, I've got this code in the wrong spot. So I'm just gonna think in code comments. Yeah, exactly. It's a puzzle game. If you play games like, say, Portal, for example, it's the same kind of sensibility that you would go through and kind of navigate a 3D world and figure out bits of it to solve a puzzle. A small set of game elements. It does have a fairly large difference in that it's what I call a stepper, meaning nothing moves in the game until you move. But it's not like a proper turn where you say, here, I'm done with my turn, and now progress to the next turn. You just issue your command, and then everything immediately updates afterward, but not after. I guess Braid did something a little bit like that, but this is more syncopated. Superhot, yeah, exactly. Superhot does that too. I wish they would have done like a little slightly more pure way, because it does sort of hurry me along. It's moving at like a kind of a slow pace, time is just barely moving. And I always wished it would just be full on stop. Just let me think about that situation as long as I want to. But yeah, Superhot, really nifty game. I like it. So let's see. For the beam, I need fire beam effect will be something that updates the beam. I think the code that I've got inside of beam discovery moves to, in fact, I don't need to have a big long name. It's called beam changed effect. Beam discovery code moves to beam changed effect. And then I need to have head direction be a new member of friggin' trencher piece. I need, what do I need in trencher piece? Thinking in terms of what files are going to need changes. Trencher piece, head direction member. So inside of walk, is it walk where I want it to happen? Someplace. Update the M squares that are occupied by the beam based on current position of trencher, head direction, etc. Okay. There does need to be an initial setup of the beam. Where do I want that to take place? That can be add to board. Return beam changed effect. Beam changed effect is going to take, what is it going to take? It needs to have direction and length. That's the two things it needs. Those are the things which can extend the beam to whatever length it needs. Okay. Occupy square, which is a thing which all the pieces call when they move to see the consequences of their movement. Needs to check for movement into a beam square and die if appropriate. This thing right here, someplace. What is someplace? Someplace could be walk. Maybe it needs to be a number of places. Could be land. Land is a function that I use. Like it's called after a piece arrives at a new location. Land will also call occupy. So land is there for all the pieces. It needs to behave differently. You know what happened? I got into a friggin' audit. So I was audited by not the IRS, but state people, state tax people in my state of Washington. And it was because I was bad about declaring, about filing paperwork. And as a result, I said, I just want to be very clear with any agencies that are looking at me that I'm not currently doing any form of business, so that they will just be very disinterested in my records right now. So I made that pretty clear on the website. And it is true that right now even though I'm pretty active in development, I'm not doing anything where money moves around. I'm not receiving money. I'm not paying anybody anything. And that's my current state. Once I'm ready to be like back in business, I'll change the website as far as that goes. But yeah, I had a business a while back, voiceover studio. We had the actors and went on different projects. So yeah, that's the deal with that notice up there. If you can avoid getting audited by a government agency, I highly recommend it. Not getting audited. It's just not fun. Okay, so let's see there's a lot of stuff to do here for this guy. So I want to make incremental improvements and just see each part as I go. So the first thing would be, I think, this, and this, and this. Those things there would give me something I could test out and see and make sure it works. And if they were all good, I move on to this stuff, which is a little more complicated, but by the time I get to it, with this in hand, my thoughts would be clarified, perhaps. So let us go and look at beam discovery. I'm in beam discovery. And take beam discovery, just take all this code, go to effects, make my new effect, add new class. It will be what I call it will be what I call it beam changed effect. Then make that, do some renaming, make it a proper effect. Beam changed effect. It's not a mono behavior anymore. It is an effect. And an effect has certain things that it needs. This stuff is not going to come from the game object anymore. It'll come from the constructor. Public beam changed effect. Some standard stuff I want to get right. Transform. Basic. Okay, I'll just kind of copy this. Do my direction and length will come from here. Direction. Int length, and that will do that. Alright, this direction equals the direction. Yeah, I'll just copy over some values here, set that from the constructor. Okay, all this stuff will happen instead on the effect being performed, and it's got to be a bool. Okay, so when perform is called, this needs to be what, override? Is that it? Oh yeah, okay. And return false. That. Well, I wish you luck on your project. Maybe sometime tell me about it. Take a look at it or something. I don't know if you want. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. All right. So let me just look at another one real quick. Public override will perform. Oh, that's all. I'm just gonna make this public. Okay. So I'm just walking through this code in my head to think if they're doing the right stuff. We don't serve zombies. You should put a little notice that says not currently in business, and it'll help you avoid getting audited. No, don't do that. That's nonsense. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I'll check it out a little bit later. Okay, so I'll set the rotation. I'll set the position. See ya. I think that should be pretty good. I think that should do it. You want to be read-only? I'm good with that. You can be read-only. Okay, so I finished that. Finish that. Then I know. I need to make the trencher discovery piece. So what's currently being called beam discovery. Rename to trencher discovery. That's not quite right. That's okay. I can fix that. Okay. So I'll just go in here. Take out that. Take out all this stuff that does not apply. So I do want to keep the direction. The length is not dependent upon what I could set to initially. So this discovery class, it's used to set in the editor things that I want to be passed on to the game logic when the board loads. So anything in here like this direction here, that's like a starting direction that I would set in the editor when I set up this guy. You know what the heck, I can leave this on validate thing in and the execute in edit mode, and that will actually help me a little bit because that'll make it so at least visually in the editor it sets things correctly. So trencher discovery. I discovered. Okay. That length I won't set there. I'm like going back and forth on that. Just keep it simple. Take it out. Take it out. Take it out. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Okay. Okay, I gotta implement this thing. pretty easy. You just say, here, let's pick another one, just copy it over. Simple discovery. Yeah, all I gotta do is just instance the piece and return it. That's fine. So, beam trencher piece, no. Trencher discovery, trencher discovery. Got too many things open. So return, no. Trencher piece. 0, 0, 0. This transform, and I do need mono behavior here. Oh, British. Okay, transform. Okay, and then pass the direction. Head direction. It's not the direction that the body's facing, that's the head direction. Okay. Private direction. I always felt like there should just be a way to assign all the parameters that have the same name as the member variables, just automatically. No, I don't want to make it read only. Okay. So here. I do need something that passes back an effect that would set up that would finish setting this up. Okay. Clear out some of these things that I'm not actually using right now. Okay. This one I can't currently do because this function isn't passing back effects. I'm going to consider having it return effects, but I'm also wondering like if there isn't a better, more elegant way to handle that, or maybe some other code I wrote I'm forgetting about that already handles it. So I think this is the first time where this two-step process needed a third step. So the first step, so this loop here goes through all of the things in the Unity scene that should be added to the game logic. And it calls this discovery interface on the object, and that code is usually responsible for doing all of the Unity game scene setup. So all the modifications that are needed to the transforms, rotations, stuff like that. It usually does all of that here in this first step here, this discovery step. The second step here, after the discovery returns the piece or the game logic thing, is to add it to the game logic, which is called the board. And that step is the first place where I might know that I need to make an additional adjustment to the Unity scene based on the game logic. So I was considering having this return an effect like this, but then I thought, is there a better way to do that? Because the truth is, the board is not in its final state yet. If I try to update the Unity game scene at this point before the board has been fully initialized, I will not have enough information, because one piece, the trench walker, could be added, and then I could say, okay, I got it, I'll fix the beam now, and now I could have that beam fly out 10 squares from the top of the trencher's head, and then like another piece could get added to the board right in front of the trencher's beam, and that first action that I took would no longer be correct. So what I need to do is finish adding all the pieces to the board, and then I think I already have this pattern for something else. Tasks that need all pieces on the board. Yeah, I knew there was like a smarter version of myself that worked on this earlier. So that's it. That's it. So I say beam util. And I want some kind of code which sets all the beams appropriately for the current locations. Okay, now I'm starting to feel it. Now I'm starting to have a sense of vision about this thing. Because I did this already with letter gates, and it was the same problem. So all the pieces have been added to the board, and then I want something, I'm going to create a new file called beamutil. Okay. To do. Something with beamutil. I'll go back to my little design plan that I started over here. And Trencher Discovery's got like a copy of this that is no longer the source of authority. Delete that there. Okay. So then I want something called beamutil, which is where I'm going to start putting some logic that's specifically related to beams. So I want like a new method called like update beams. Okay. And I want like a want to keep track when I add to the board where all of my beam emitters are. Track all beam emitters in a piece group. I already have these things called piece groups, which are just indexes into like what's on the board. So if I would later on want to find all of them, they're just in a neat little index and I can just iterate through them. So update beams. It'll get past the board and it'll get past effects. What else will it do? It will, for each beam emitter, it's going to call how to do this. So I could say I have two things I need to do. I need to remove the beam from the old location. I need to add the beam to the new location. So maybe beam util has also got remove beam. I could say a certain CRH in direction with the board, remove the beam. And we could also have an add beam, which does a similar thing. And that would also extend the beams out. Okay. Effects. Do I want to handle it that way? Do I want these to be these functions to control the Unity scene as well? That's what it would mean if I added effects there. Or do I want them to be purely logical? Well, if there are consequences, to adding the beam, such as destroying creatures, then effects would have to return all of those. Okay, so add beam, let's say it, what does it do? It updates the M squares for the beam. So it adds M beam into M squares. Let's see, it finds the first beam obstacle from start of beam in direction of travel. It adds the beam into M squares. It checks for I'm gonna have to finish that thought. So I just heard a oven timer, and that means that some corned beef is needs to come out of the oven. So I'm just going to take 1 minute to take it out of the oven, and I'm going to come right back. Yeah, so if you're a lazy cook and you like delicious food, I really recommend corned beef. You just stick it in the oven 2.5 hours at 300 degrees and put some tin foil over the top of it at the beginning. And take off that tin foil, leave it in there for another half hour, and it's delicious. So delicious. Okay. Checks for pieces to destroy and returns. Let's see, destroys pieces, returns. You also have to it destroys pieces and checks for falling. For stackables, those are these blocks, crates, you might think of them. If they're destroyed, then things can fall down underneath. Returns effects for that. Okay, that would be add beam. Remove beam is just remove beam from M square, starting from start of beam in direction of travel. And I gotta think. So add beam, it will also return beam change effect. So then my thing is, this is not so much update. This is an init function. So this is init beams. They'll get called during board load for each beam emitter. Call add beam, and that's it. That's what it does. It's going to return effects. Those effects will kind of fix things up. Okay, so then I want those utility functions I can use inside of, I want to say land. There should be a land override. Land override calls the base land. Okay, let's say that if the piece moved, then the beam moved. So remove beam from old location, add beam at new location. That should cause the beam to move along, because land gets called by different things. So when you walk, when you get shoved and pushed someplace, when different things happen in the game world that might move, the piece around land will always get called to represent the moment that that the piece arrives at a square. So I'm wondering though, so land is sort of like the high level version of that function. There's another one called on arrive, which is a little more low level. And that will get called perhaps in a better set of, perhaps in a superset of situations in which I would want the beam to be updated. Like this might cover a subset. So I'm kind of thinking of one case. Alright, use this instead of land. Thinking of case. Push the trencher. Do I want the beam to kill everything for each square of movement between start and end of push? I think I do. I think I do. That's the tricky part. So I'll show you pushing in a little bit. If you haven't seen pushing. So pushing is the thing that makes this a little bit more difficult to code, but it also makes the game really fun and unique. I don't know any other game that implements pushing like I have. Not to toot my own horn, but it's weird and cool in my mind. Let me see if I can build. I'll just show it real quick. If I can build without much trouble. Okay. Hopefully I didn't break anything with my not quite fully realized code changes. Okay. I did. I broke something. Okay, I know why. I know why. No problem. I need to fix that anyways. That's a good thing to fix. So I want the trencher to no longer have the simple piece discovery. So let's just remove this component. Let's add a new one, which is the one I just made. Trencher discovery. So that will give me my direction that it can face the beam. Okay, and then the beam itself, I don't want it to have a discovery script anymore, so that's fine. I can just remove that and update the prefab. Alright. Now I'm walking again, trencher's moving. So if you can imagine that direction with that little disc on him is that beam I was talking about. And there's a problem adding him to the board. So it's possible to push him, and when he pushes he'll go flying. But let me fix the other bug that I must have introduced. Yeah. Okay. I just gave him some bad data. Okay, fix that. Okay. Let's see you moving. Yes, good. Okay. So imagine he has a beam that's like shooting off to the east, and it's gonna extend the full length off to the east. And then he ugly camera stuff. Okay, so here I can push him. Now the way it works is that in one step he will be flung all the way south as far as he can go. And I'll just show you that. I had to explain it to you in advance because if you're not watching, you'll just kind of miss it and not really understand what's going on until you're familiar with the game. Okay, so he went flying south. To your eyes, he just disappeared. But what actually happened is he flew all the way south in one step. And there'll be trails and animation stuff that show that better in the future. But the idea is if he had that beam that was extending to the east, I would have just strafed everything off to the east when I pushed him south. And that is what I want to happen. I want if there was like a whole bunch of stuff off to the right, off to the east, that was in that path. When he got pushed south, I want them all to get strafed and just die. It would just be instant carnage. So thinking about how best to achieve that. Can override on arrive. Oh, I got the wrong name. It's called the occupy square. So it's that. Okay. Okay. So I think this is basically going to work. And I want to get some of this other stuff going so that I can see those beams initially get set. And then after that, I'll move on to the updating part, which might not be, if I'm honest, be completable in this session. But I think it'd be a nice goal for this session if I can have that initialization of the beams in a beam. This would get called add beam. This would get called. And this, I think these are the next things. So let's do that. That seems quite doable to me. Let's go to piece groups. these are my current set of indexes that I have for different things that I keep track of. Let's see, call it a, let's see, I want a trencher piece. Some trenchers. From there, to add that to that group is pretty simple. I just say inside a trencher piece, no. Board, piece groups, add. Trenchers, add this, and that's tracked. And I'll create beam util. I'll make it my favorite kind of class, which is a static class. I like static classes. You know where you stand with a good static class. All right. So then I want go back to this new class, rename it beam util. I knew a guy named Beam once. It's an Indian guy. His name was Beam. And beams. I don't need a ref on that. Ref. No, do I? Yeah, I do. I do need a ref because I'll be updating the board. This is a pretty easy bit of code. Just say i.e. numerable. I need what is it? Using system collections generic i.e. numerable. Come on, autocomplete. Don't make me do all the work. Trencher piece, trenchers equals board piece groups, trenchers. I say for each. Let's say for each of these trenchers. No. Let's just add a beam. Let's add a beam for it. Add beam. And then do I want to pass in the trencher? I think I'd like it more general purpose than that. Just in case I want something else later on to be able to add a beam. And that's not hard for me to do. So I can say, CRH. I can get the coordinates of the trencher, and I can add a beam where I know it would start from. H plus 1 because it's from the head, and then I can say what direction it's going to be. I'll have to add a new accessor. Get head direction. Ref the board, ref the effects. Okay, so then I'll go back while I remember it, and I'll add a quick little accessor. Alright, make this read only. Maybe later on I make it so that the direction can change, but it is true that for the moment it's not part of my plans to have the trencher be able to turn his head. So read only suits my purposes. Beam util. So now I got that, that's fine. Oh, I need to do want all the ones that are alive. Okay. Do just put a stub in here for now. Yeah, even less than that. Habit I have from JavaScript, but I kind of like to declare things like in order of dependency, with the exception of the constructors, which I just kind of like to always be up front. Okay. Int call, int row. Oh man, you can't smell it, but I can smell delicious corned beef. And I was so in a hurry to start coding that I didn't have a snack when I came home like I usually do. So I'm starving. It's good to stay hungry. Okay. So I want Okay, so I basically want to set up something like a little scan where it's going to step through each square. It's going to do something in the square until it meets an obstacle. So that's the beam kind of extending out and eventually hitting something that stops it, and that'll be the end of the scan. But we'll start with the CRH being at new CRH, CRH, and then CR H util Don't need that. CRH C plus equals DC. CRH R plus equals so this moves it in the direction of travel. Let's say each iteration checks one square. And then for now to say while true until I've discovered the exit conditions well, and then now I may revise that. It might be better to just put this in here at the top of the loop. Okay, so then I want to know, is there anything in this square that would block the beam? Anything that would block the beam. So for that, we'll say if board get, first I'll get the wall height. Check for a wall to block the beam. Board heights. Get wall height. CRH. Can I just do? Okay. I don't need to assign it. I can just say if not equals 0, meaning there is a wall there, or there's something in either the O layer, or if there's something occupying the square, let's stop the beam at that point. What's all the red about? Oh, I always forget. That's my old C++, JavaScript just let you check for any non-zero value as being positive. So I gotta do that. Habits from other languages. I have to explicitly check for null in C#. Okay. Then break. We'll break out of the loop if any of those things are true. So then, I also want to be keeping track of my length. So we'll start out with length equals 0, because that's going to go back in my effect that will update the beam to be its new direction and size and all that. Okay, so here I got past the obstacle. It means the length increases. This isn't quite right. I might use it to start with, because right here I'm just checking is anything in the square. If so, I'm going to stop the beam. But I want it to actually destroy a number of things instead of just stopping on them. But it's okay for like a first pass at the logic for it to just stop the beam whenever it hits anything at all. So I kind of like doing this iteratively. I think I'll go with that. So I'll say to do destroys pieces. But I am going to add the M piece into it. I'm going to do it in a way that is not admirable. That isn't really a good practice. I feel like calling it out just in case this is even arrogant of me to suggest it, that someone might be trying to learn by watching me. It's not a good idea. Whenever you see the word new, there's a 75% chance you're making a mistake inside of Unity. At least if it's in code that runs any place other than like your initial setup. I can create extra garbage collection with this approach. In fact, I definitely will. But I don't feel like setting up the proper pool of instances right now to go and like grab a pre-allocated instance of the beam object I'm going to create. I don't know why I'm like getting all defensive about it. Okay, so let's see. What is... Did I create a piece type for this yet? Not yet? Okay. So let's just copy this, paste this. So yeah, at some point, I don't need a tag, it's not a discoverable piece. At some point, I really do want to have some kind of a pool of beam piece objects that get reused. That won't be too hard to do, I just don't want to do it right now. And if you're wondering why, anyone watching this, look up Unity garbage collection, and you'll see what the best practices are for that. Okay, so the empty constructor is fine, but it needs to be on the M layer, so public override get layer turn. Do a tiny little hack. Is pushable. No, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. Never mind. Okay, so that should be enough for that. So I have it. I have that piece, the beam piece, and then I go back to beam util. And I say new beam piece, or I can say beam piece add. Do I not get it yet? Do I not get... okay. Beam piece. Beam piece. Create this. This is the part that is bad. The new allocation there, which will be happening frequently. Passing all of that. Okay, no problem. Then I say I'm going to add this beam to the board, just like I said I would. Okay, so that's all good. The next part, the final part, except for the to-do, the final part is another example of the bad pattern that I talked about. New beam changed effect. Think about that, because I wrote this in like a purely logical way, but I need the transform beam, so I can expect to find the trencher piece, a certain location. Okay. So I can make some gross kind of coupled to the trencher code, or I can just be a little bit nicer about it. I can create a new interface called firebeam emitter. So the idea is I want to generalize this interface for getting information about things that emit beams, and that way it gives me two things. One, I can kind of create like a nice little function that is really designed for passing the information I need to this beam util. And that'll let me abstract away some information that's specific to the trencher inside of it, so that the beam util doesn't need to know so much about what a trencher is. And the other thing is that it'll set me up so that in the future, if I add something else that has a beam that gets emitted, that it will also use that emitter interface. So the things that I want to learn inside of beam util, I don't say public for an interface. I say bool. No, I say void. I say get beam info. I want to learn the location and the transform. I want the transform. I want the transform of the beam. I don't implement it here because it's an interface. Interface means you have to implement it someplace else, which I will do. So these will be coordinates of where the start of the beam is. This will be the transform of the beam. I am scratching my head about something else though, because I've been trying very hard to keep the logical code inside the pieces free of anything but just like an opaque passing along of the transform that it belongs to. And the trencher does not directly have the beam transform. It only has its own transform, which is the container of the beam and other things. So what I could do is call this the beam container transform, and then I could establish a convention for where beam transforms will be parented. Okay. So let's call this a beam emitter. And I'll put put some code that is used to discover where the beam is inside of an object. Now I already did something like this, so I'll just copy and paste that. Move a piece. Beam emitted by the piece. Okay. That should do it. I have to just make sure that whenever I set up an object that is meant to emit a beam, that it follows a certain hierarchy, and that if it's going to have a beam, that beam is going to be just one child underneath named beam. So if I make like something like a big old beam cannon or something like that later on, it will also follow that convention. I can use this function inside my effect, and that will allow me to not put a bunch of logic like I just wrote inside of this other area of my code, which is supposed to be entirely unknowledgeable and uncoupled from those concerns. Okay, so get beam info is something that a I-beam emitter needs to implement, and the I-beam emitter is a trencher piece, or is a trencher piece. So if I say that my trencher is also a beam emitter, immediately I know I have to implement get beam info. And I can do that without much worry, without much trouble. I can do that. We're taking the coordinates of the trencher piece and adding one to the height element of the coordinate. What are you complaining about? Is it the same? Okay, that's fine. So body CRH. No, let's call this head CRH. So those are the coordinates of the head. If I just go up one from the body and beam container transform, okay, this should be out and this should be out, and this should be out and this should be out. These are return parameters that I'm going to return. Let's call this head CRH. Okay, and beam container transform is just the transform of the piece. You know what? I don't even need to return that because the piece already has a get transform method. Is that true? Let me double check that. Oh, I'm wrong. I do need it. Okay. Cool. So that's done. Let's go back to beam util. Getting excited because I am really hoping to see this beam show up on this after all this work. I think it'll be cool. Okay, so I need, what do I need? I need to get a few things passed to this, but I need to get the info. So beam piece, not the beam piece, the so that's right, down here. That's where I need to be at. Okay. So I can say I really want this to be generalized, but I'll come back to that. Trencher. Get beam info. Out, CRH, CRH. That's the position of the beam. Then I say out, transform, head, no, beam, container transform, let's go ahead and bring in the Unity namespace so I can have transform be defined. Unity engine. Okay, and then from the beam container transform, I need to get the actual transform of the beam. Game object 2. Find beam transform, beam container transform. Okay. So that, and I need to now pass the beam transform. Let's see, do I have direction? I don't have direction. I got direction. Do I have length? Yes, I have length. So I have all the things that it should need. And this is the part I was talking about where garbage collection may kill me later on. Yeah, creating a new effect a new object for this effect every time I have an effect is that's one thing I do want to rewrite. Get like a little pool of objects instead that I keep reusing for the effects. That would be a smarter way to do it. But yeah, okay, so init beams. Init beams is there in the house. I can add it to the board loader. So this is that nice moment right after the game logic is entirely loaded, and I can do some things that return back a few extra changes I need to make to the Unity scene and the game objects inside of it. They're based upon a completely loaded set of game logic. So that's what all that was for. Like, there's so much new code there, like I almost don't even want to just run it, because like I know there's a high likelihood that something breaks right away. I think I am going to step through it first. I know it's not very dramatic. but I think it'll serve everyone's interest better. It was pretty cool that it just built the first time, no syntax errors. I like that. That's cool. I'm grateful for these small things. Okay, so what do I think I'll get? Oh, I think I'll get this beam shooting off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. And then it should hit that wall. Although I don't think it'll work the first time. I think I'll have to fix a few bugs. Yeah, it's so weird. The whole thing about setting breakpoints in the IDE while it's running, it's kind of goofy. That appeared to have just ignored my code change, so Jesus. Oh, it worked the very first time. It worked the very first time. It did it right the very first time. I mean, it went in the wrong direction, though. That's okay. I understand why. Oh. So, the thing that happened is it initialized, and then it went and did all the game logic stuff to figure out where that beam was supposed to land at. And then it modified the transform of with my mouse I'm showing it the beam object here. So there's a mesh here for the beam. The code I'd written earlier that was working fine to change this, I copied over, and that init code stretched it out the appropriate amount for it to stop at an obstacle, and that's victory. That smells exactly like victory to me. Pretty happy about that. So it's like almost bad luck to try anything else at this point, like near the end of my coding session. Sort of like if I was smarter, I would just kind of stop right there. But it is bugging me slightly that this guy was facing east instead of north. But now that I think about that, yeah, okay, that's fine actually, because I have the direction here set to north, and that was what it was reading, not the initial placement of the mesh there. The script didn't care about that. So if I set it east, which is now matching the mesh, then that's fine. I'll do another test. I'll see the beam go this way. Don't even care about stepping through the code now. I'm just so optimistic that things will work. Yeah, it's going east. It's stopping right where it should. What I know won't work yet, because I haven't written code for it, is that as the trencher walks around, that the beam will move to. And actually the trencher stopped walking around. So probably something to do with the new code I added that is now messing up the obstacle finding. That's okay. That's okay. I don't expect it to all be perfect right now. So let me just do like a proper crazy victory thing, and I'm just going to load up the board with lots of trenchers, and I'm going to light up the board with them. Just throw them all over the place. Stick them even like way up here and stick them. in the trenches. Let's stick them above the trenches. It's like a trencher celebration I'm gonna create here. It's gonna be so glorious. Some people make Christmas light shows. This is better than that. Some people get a planetarium with lasers. This is better than that. Some people explode skyscrapers. This is better than that. Well, actually, a lot of things are I shouldn't glorify exploding skyscrapers. Yeah, a lot of things are better than exploding skyscrapers. Don't worry, I won't let the terrorists win. Okay, then let me snap them so that they're on the proper call row height alignment. You come up here, you go down there. Oh man, I'm getting so excited. This is going to be so glorious. Alright. So then I want these guys not all going in the same direction. Let's have some going west and some going, yeah, you can go south. Yeah, you can go north. You can go east and you can go south and you can go east and west and south. Okay, I think I almost got it set up now. The most amazing thing that anybody has ever done in a very limited set of criteria that I have left out of definition. Play. Yeah. Oh, and some of them are even moving. And the beam's moving with them. It's kind of crazy. So this is like a taste of what this world is going to be like. These guys with lasers mounted to their heads, they're going to walk around in trenches, and everywhere they go, that beam like goes out and extends, it's going to like destroy everything in its path. They're going to be like running around like crazy like this, and they like to stay in the trenches. They hate being out of the trench, but they'll be in the trench. Their big dumb head is going to pop up over the trench, and you'll be like running around trying not to get hit by their super deadly beams. You'll be able to get down the trench with them at times and push them around. Let me see if I can push one so I can finally give you an idea of that effect I was talking about, that strafing thing. Okay, so I'm going to push this guy south. So the idea is that like when he went south, every column along the way, oh, I just got killed by a guy. Every column along the way would get strafed as he got shoved south. There's like too many things to like keep adding to this. I'm actually really excited. Yeah, I'm gonna hit play again because I didn't want to die that fast. Alright, so this crazy sort of almost like a chessboard, you know, when you think of like the queen piece and how you might want to stay out of the columns and ranks and files. What do they call them? The columns and rows that the piece occupies. Well, there's no diagonals to this, but maybe they're more like rooks. If one is creeping up on you and you're going to be in its beam, you want to stay away from that. You can avoid beams. See, there I would have just died. You can avoid beams by also getting on like a height where it's not going to hit you. Their heads won't ever turn around, so it'll be part of the strategy to kind of get behind them. Push that guy, right? So I can push him. So that's it. That's the gist of it. Oh, there I would have died. After I write the death code, I'll die. And the beams will be updating so that like each time that they move around, it'll jonk to the right appropriate length for the obstacles that are in front of it. Other things that will be cool to add into the interactions are the blocks, because the blocks are stackable. So when a beam hits a block, there could be a big stack of blocks. Like it'll just kind of like destroy the stack so that they all fall down and maybe other consequences occur. So yeah, so that's it. That's the gist of it. I'm gonna stop the stream pretty quick here. We'll go eat some corned beef with my sweetheart when she gets home. And thanks for the people that joined. Thanks for Thy Duck for chatting with me much earlier. And I'll be back doing this tomorrow at around 6 p.m. I'm so excited though about doing this particular task that I may get going on it earlier, as has been my tendency over the last few days. So maybe starting between 5 and 6 tomorrow. And yeah, so thanks. See you later. Hope you enjoyed.